Hey, greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott, and this is my Market MRI Pro update for Tuesday, February 24th, 2026. I know I said I probably wouldn't do one, but I forgot our jet has Starlink now, and just coming back from a customer dinner, and I had a chance to do my analysis. So I just got home. I'll do this and go to sleep. So I titled this one "Risk On, Risk Off, Risk On, Risk Off." These markets feel like the Karate Kid. Well, I don't know how old you have to be or how young to remember or not remember, but I remember this wax on, wax off thing that the mentor was doing to the kid, just to teach him, I guess, rules, I guess, repetition. But the way this market's going, one day risk on, one day risk off, it feels just like that. So I call this a Karate Kid market day. Again, my name's Dr. Jeffrey Scott, marketmripro at gmail.com. My Google group is called Top Down Trader, and www.marketmripro.com is my website. As always, this is for educational purposes only. Anything I recommend should be taken in the spirit of education and not advice. Intent of the videos to show you how to use my tools. Trading involves risk. You are solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. I may own or intend to buy or sell any stock I mention. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky, and you should always consult with your financial advisor before making trades. And I have tools in multiple platforms. Let me close. All right, and you had to close my doors. I just woke up the family. Oops. My Google group is called Top Down Trader. All you have to do is go to Google Groups, click all groups, sign in, look for Top Down Trader, and let me know how to contact you. You control your in and out of the group. It's the only list that I maintain, and I post something to the list whenever I post a video or an invite to a live meeting. News and earnings really drive the markets. Obviously, tonight we've had the State of the Union speech, which just ended. I don't think I remember one where two congressional medals of honor were given out, but that was pretty cool to see. And right now the futures are not doing much. Bitcoin's up 800, Dow's down 7 points, E-minis are up 24, S&P's up 3, and the Russell's up 1.8. I think the futures were up a little bit higher earlier. That's what we got here. Earnings after hours, Axon up 16.4%, Kava 9.4, Trek 6.6. Big losers, ATech down 12%, First Solar down 11, Workday down 9, HPQ down 6.6, Millie down 5.9. And we'll have to see what happens tomorrow with Netflix as Paramount increased their bid for Warner Brothers. So we should have some movement tomorrow. Earnings are always fun, aren't they? Tomorrow we've got a couple Fed heads, but not a whole lot of news. And then Thursday, I think the jobless will be interesting. And I think the big thing for tomorrow is Nvidia, although we got others like Trade Desk, Salesforce, Snowflake. So earnings Wednesday night will be big. It is a judgment call to hold stocks over earnings dates. It is bad judgment to not know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. For more information about anything I talk about my products, any interest, and you want best price, just email me at marketmripro@gmail.com. And if you have any issues with the program working, etc., look for coding at marketmripro.com. All right, so let's take a look. Try to make this quick tonight. Markets had a good day. Russell up 1.09, Q's up 1.07, Diamonds up 0.77, and the Spiders were up 0.73. Over here, you can see they finished really in the top 20% of their daily range. That's good to see. Dollar relatively flat, up 0.07. Bitcoin down 0.05%, and volatility down 3.23. We have improvement in the new highs minus new lows at 52 weeks on the NYSE, 66, and positive 3 on the NASDAQ. Now, those are not great numbers, but they're both improvements from the prior couple of sessions. And in fact, um, the Nasdaq was negative yesterday. If we look at the S&P 500 sectors, we could see they were led up 1.5 by discretionary, 1.29 by technology, 1.23 by industrials, 1.11 by utilities. It was leaked about the information about allowing utilities, energy companies to build power for data centers independent of the grid. I think you'll see some of those companies probably, when I bought today going into this was GEV. We'll see if they rally tomorrow, if they sell off on the news. The laggards, healthcare and energy, were down just a bit. From a theme perspective, cannabis, blockchain was up a lot, 3.3. Uranium still up. Clean tech, copper, cloud, lithium, autonomous vehicles, Internet of Things, and fintech were up over 2%. I think if you replay, not that I'm recommending it, yesterday's video, you'll see that's a flip-flop for the things that were lagging. On a breadth perspective, take a look at 3 different indices. Sectors in blue or green are Tuesday, gray is Monday. You could see a big improvement across the board in industries and sectors, and more importantly, from the 20s to the 70s, 70% of the stocks in the S&P 1500 were up, 65% of the Nasdaq were up, and 66, I think it says, let me see if I can, percent of the NYSE are up. So many more than half the stocks were up. Hopefully you had a good day in your portfolios. If we look at the timing brief, maybe disappointment. That won't change yet. We probably need some more work to see the daily signals change, and even though we're approaching the WMA pretty much across the board, we're going to have to flip the bongos, which take a little longer. In fact, the Qs flipped their bongos today, so another positive day on the Qs might flip them to a buy. So right now on the daily signals, we've got daily, Spider, Russell, Qs, and Diamond signaling still a sell signal. However, when I flip to the weeklies, we can see that 3 of the 4, Spiders, Russell, and Diamonds, are still long. The weekly Qs still lagging. Interesting that their daily is perhaps correcting first. So how do I play this market? Well, those that have watched my videos know I have this slide that shows performance from some really good stock pickers looking at strong markets and weak markets, and then mixed strong and mixed weak. Well, what kind of a market do you think we have? Well, if we had a super strong market, we have all of these would be buy signals, and markets would be go higher every day. If we had a weak market, I'd expect them all to be red and sell signals, and the market would be dropping every day. So almost by definition, we have a mixed market. I think this is probably still mixed strong, and because of that, as I've telegraphed over the last many days, I've raised cash, put some puts to protect some of my positions. But if you had to look at what direction I am, I'm still long. And that's my story. Let's take a look at the index ETFs. Open up the first one, which will be the Spider. And what can we see? The S&P 500 continuing to bounce off of the 100-day moving average. It's holding. And I guess the more days it holds there, the better it is. I got to see a break above that 17 and that 21-day EMA to be excited. Kind of a nothing burger. The Qs, a long ways to go. You have the 17 crossing down. We got to get back up here to the 100, and you got the 17 crossing down, and you've got the 50 right here. So we are not in a good pattern on the Qs, although we seem to be stabilizing. Let's start to move higher to get excited. Diamonds sold off down to the 50 and bounced. Still got to get above their 17 and their 21. Hopefully we'll see that soon. Again, improved, but not out of the woods. And then the Russell holding above the 50, and it looks like it closed above the 17 and the 21. But again, the market still is tenuous. Do I think it's going higher? I do. Do I think it goes up in a straight line? I do not. Volatility is one of my concerns. We're continuing to go up this line, even though volatility was down today, and we were down 7%. Well, that's great to see on the VIX futures. Seasonality says volatility is still going higher. And then if we look at the dollar, I'm not really that worried about it. It's been consolidating in this range for 6 months or longer, 8 months, and it's really well off the prior highs. If we look now at commodities, they certainly like a weak dollar. But what did they do today? Of course, gold was strong yesterday. You could see gold was down 1.39, but closing at the high of the session, which if you have to have a negative day, I'd rather finish at the high than at the low. And silver got into the prior day's bar, down 1.85. I think this was just profit-taking days after really big moves the prior sessions. Oil is consolidating at these highs. Um, we we know the Venezuela oil is coming on supply is probably good for keeping the costs down. What's going on in the Mid East with Iran puts the prices at risk, and I think we're finding balance up here until we resolve what's going on with Iran. At some point, we got to refill our strategic reserves, although I think you'd want to do it down here. It wouldn't surprise me to hear that we cut a deal with Venezuela on that, but remains to be seen. That's just conjecture at this point. Natural gas continues to be weak, and part of it is, as you heard Trump talk tonight, drill baby drill. We're bringing online much more natural gas, keeping prices down. To me, when do we see sizable, meaningful shipment of LNG to Europe to replace some of the Russian gas, which is always one of the things that gets threatened to be cut, because that would be great for everybody, except for the Russians. 10-year, up a little bit today after a deep drop on Monday. Markets were stronger. I'm sure some money came out of bonds into stocks, and that results in rates going a little bit higher. Here's the 10-year and the 30-year, but they are both well off their recent highs. 30-year actually down again 0.13%. If we want to look at the buckets, you could see the gray above the white all the way to the left, and that means that we have less stocks below their Bollinger Bands today than we had yesterday. That shows improving market conditions. Here we see green bars above the gray, which means we shifted more stocks to the upper part. So I still don't see a signal, but we are less oversold than we were yesterday. Market breadth, you could see on the NYSE, we got back above this trend line, probably setting another one that I should be setting there for a flag. New high, new lows, AD lines, up, down, volume, high, no new signals down here. You're at 0.6, which is neutral. If I had to ask or bet, is the NYSE going higher or lower here? I think it's going higher. And if I look at the NASDAQ, is this putting in a bear flag after this drop? That would be very different than what we see here. And I think that really remains my concerns in the market. You look over here and you look at the new highs versus new lows. I see one red day going all the way back to November. And you look over here on the NASDAQ, I've got as many reds as green. So there's still a tale of different markets. And you wonder, will the NYSE bring up technology in the NASDAQ? Or does NVIDIA disappoint and pull the NASDAQ down and the NYSE with it? I think that's going to be the question for Wednesday. Probably won't impact the markets to Thursday, but I think, as we all know, the NVIDIA earnings seem to be pivotal every day or every quarter when they come out. The ratio charts just show the strength continues in materials, energy, and industrials. And then the second tier are the defensive, real estate, utilities, and staples. Discretionary still is weak. Healthcare is coming up some. Technology still lagging. Seasonality, I ran against my entire model, and I looked at, you had to have, I think it was at least 7 years of data, 8 years of data, and I looked to see if there's any strong seasonality here, and you could see 30 years, 12 and 10 years worth of data. Let's just look at INSW, which is a shipping company. If we look at it, it has, just look to see if they have any scores that are exciting. And I guess the 45-day edge is probably the best here at FRPT. I was looking at the streak here, but if we look at 45 days out on fresh pet, it's up 100% of the time with an average a move of 12.48. Well, that's kind of interesting. So where do we see that? So it's already moving, but you could see here's the seasonality that we're looking at over the next month and a half, which is strong. Now, I look at seasonality, I'm looking for big winners. As I mentioned over the weekend, I'm less impressed with seasonality than I was a decade ago, but I always like to see what seasonality predicts when I look at a stock. If we look at the broader market breadth tool, really no signals, 0.69, 0.64, 0.49, and 0.43. Now, you might ask, why do I always look at that 13-week new high, new low? And the answer is because I've been looking at it for 25 years. And it does seem to correlate with reversals in the market at extremes. It's neutral right now. If we want to look at the sectors very quickly in a non-timing model, but more a combination of the timing and a non-ratio model, but a combination of timing and regular moving averages. So this is the timing. This is the 30-period WMA. Right here in purple is the 21-day EMA, and then this is the 50. So Bitcoin still weak. It had a bounce today, but really it was up 0.07%. It gapped down and closed much higher, but still negative on the day. Someday it'll reverse, maybe tomorrow. Here is technology. It's in a sell signal and really going sideways. And again, kind of could be a bear flag. Came down here, flagging, and not real impressive. Obviously, NVIDIA will make a big difference on that. Here is discretionary, also breaking down to the 200. Here we're looking at communications. In a sell signal, not as broken down as the last two, but doesn't look impressive either. Industrials, this has been a big leader, and you could see it had a strong session today. And I think a lot of these go into the data center story. This is financials. Nice bounce today after opening lower, closed higher, up 0.49%. Can we really expect a bull market without technology and financials? I'll answer for you. No. Energy, woo, still holding up. Now it's consolidating up here. Look at the three dojis in a row. Talk about indecision. And I think that's that story related to what's going to happen with Iran. As Trump was talking today about prices coming down, and I know everybody's going to argue about are they really coming down, are they not, whatever. One thing I think you can say is that gasoline prices are cheaper today than they were a year ago, and I think that's really helping Trump on the inflation front. Materials, after being big leaders for quite some time, have pulled back, but it kind of looks like they're setting up the right side of the cup. Real estate, as I said, the second tier are the defensive plays. Real estate looks good. Utilities breaking out, and I do think, and I'll have to do more research into the program that Trump talked about, but I think it's going to stimulate, especially some of these electricity providers. CEG might be one, maybe something like BE, which is an alternative of helium or hydrogen rather, and then maybe GE Vernova and companies like it. But it'll be interesting to see what rallies on that. It's always interesting handicapping companies after the State of the Union. Staples, nice move as well. And then healthcare can't decide what to do. Technically, it's in a buy. Didn't really do much today. Kind of an inside bar down 0.42%, but really didn't change anything. And then the last thing I like to look before I look at individual stocks is the key stock timing. And here, we all know that the most common stocks out there are the MAGs. So I like to look at the MAGs each night. Amazon, well, I own some. I was hurt yesterday and helped today. Amazon is coming up off the bottom. I got to worry a little bit about what happens when it gets into the moving averages. It is speculative. It is in a downtrend, although, yep, the bongos are still negative, but I don't know. I like Amazon and I like buying it when it's cheap. Apple, we talked about it the last couple of days. It looks like it's ready to break out. It broke out. That looks great. Google, yeah, I thought that was going to do the same thing, but it actually pulled back today. I still like Google, but I'd rather wait till it gets above the yellow line. Meta, Meta fooled us after earnings. Big gap up, and then it sold off. I'd still like to wait till it's above the yellow line. Netflix, interesting to see what happens tomorrow. Paramount's bid, I think, trumps Netflix's bid. It'll be very interesting to see if Netflix has to respond with a higher bid or uses it as an excuse to walk away. If they walk away, I bet you see a powerful rally. If they continue to fight, God knows when it's going to stop falling, because even when they agree on a price, then you got to deal with regulatory. Tesla looks better, kind of pinching in between the 50 and the 200. If I was a betting person, it's going to break higher, but I think it's interesting here. And then NVIDIA, I like to tighten this up, changes the whole view. And we've been in a range. We're at the top of the range today. So that means we're going to end up after earnings either down at 170 or we're going to break out above 190. I think it's going to be a really interesting after hours tomorrow. I'm glad I can be at home watching. And Microsoft had a positive day for a change, but still way off the highs. It's got more work to do. I don't think it's ready to be bought. Could be the low. Biotech, mentioned yesterday or 2 days ago, was impressed by this bottoming tail. Got a buy signal yesterday and really did well today. What drove it? Well, you've had some positive news in biotech, and you had a takeover of Asilix, I think, uh, Asilixis by Gilead, something like that. And that's typically what drives biotech data and approvals and takeovers. And I guess the question is, how is my LABU going to behave? Because we did hear a lot of rhetoric about lower drug prices. So we'll see what LABU does tomorrow. Pharma holding up. Data centers after a pullback, nice bounce today. And that's a lot of things. That could be industrials and utilities. It could be uranium, which was good today. It could be VRT and other cooling plants, flow. I mean, there's so many things. Optical cable, even though memories and SSDs didn't seem to do well today. And then lastly, I like to look at defense. And defense is acting like we're not going to go to war, but kind of an interesting cup. Will this be a handle and a breakout? All right, so now let's go into the stock picking area, the JAS layout, and let's go into the top-down view. Let's look at 2-day momentum as a sort. Let's take the top four because they're all very similar. Utilities, materials, tech, and staples. Why are these different than the S&P 500? Because it's 3,600 stocks. Let's go here, do the same thing, 2-day sort. Top 10, hardware, renewables, copper. This gives me 206 stocks in the top 10 industry groups from the top four sectors. Let's put a price and volume on them. Gives me 146. Let's rank them by up impulses. Let's just take a look at the top 10. SANM. I think of them just like we think of Celestica, one of these contract manufacturers. Kind of consolidating here after a big run up. I don't like how it finished, even though it had a nice gap up with earnings out today. Nope. Look at earnings per share growth rate, a multiple of only 16. Look at surprises. I just have to do some research and figure out why the lousy close. POET, a cheap tech stock. Nice move off of the 200. Still got to clear the 50. It's kind of bottom fishing. Keysight, there's a data center play here. 0223, $1.62. So that would have been last night probably. Good revenue as compared to $1.82. Looks like the market liked it. And you might wonder, why would its stock be up so much if the earnings were not great and they even had a negative surprise? Because there is the printed number of what people expect, and then there's the whisper number. And if people thought they were going to miss and they didn't miss as bad, then the stock goes up even though it looks like a miss. Um, Big gap up here, long way from the 200, kind of extended. AMD had a funny deal today I can't remember, was it Meta again? Let's see the news. Open up the news. Meta AM deal makes sense for Meta, but less so for AMD, says Clockwise Capital. Well, it rallied on the deal. I think I've got enough tech, especially since NVIDIA is my number one position. Notice here 3 year seasonality, or 3 years, three time frame, 5-year, 10-year, and all time seasonality looks kind of flat right here. All right, so still got to get above the 50. ALMU, another tech play. Don't know anything about this. I like the breakout above the 50 on big volume. It's got EMS and CPR, volume, breakout, momentum, from a squeeze, good relative strength and OBV. I like what that looks like. Earnings are out. I don't no idea what they do, so let's highlight it. Whoops, you just hover over it and it will open up. Optoelectronic devices for sensing and communications. It's a data center play. So that one looks interesting. Wolf, this one's had a big move. Here was the move. Let me close that so we can see the full effect of the chart. Big gap up, pull back. Does it look like it's digested and ready to go? That's what it looks like to me. I kind of like that. Lots of blue, good relative strength. That might be one to take a look at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. TGB, minor, pullback, breaking out like that. TEL, TE connectivity, nice breakout after a sideways move. I don't like the seasonality, although that's not a driving force for me. You could see earnings are not out to April. It pays a 1.25% dividend. Lots of earnings surprise and growth. Doesn't look bad. RPGL, no, got to be something related to the power news. PRMB, Primo Brands, not interested. So from this list, I think Wolf looked really good, and I think TGB looked good. Um, that's my top-down approach, and that's my favorite approach because I'd rather buy stocks that look good when the sector's strong and the industry group is strong. But then we're humans, and as humans, we like to chase shiny objects. So we'll go to the shiny object scans, clear the current, and let's take a look at my A plus scan. This is my double momentum scan. Some great winners have come from here. Let's go very quickly. Albemarle. This is a lithium play. This one was, let me go throw on a monthly chart. This was a big mover, big sell off. It's running again with the lithium story being resonating. Also has other minerals that are attractive. And this one looks pretty good. Let me try to shut that off. There you go. That's a nice breakout there. That one looks interesting. This is the double momentum dots. You want to see relative strength heading up and OBV, and it's not extended. CNTA, Contessa Pharma. Don't know anything about what they have, but it's a nice little breakout here. Domino's Pizza, know them well. Rather buy it above the 200. Hudbay Minerals, we looked at this a few days ago. It said this one looked attractive in the basic, the silver gold precious metal space and nice. This is the day we talked about it, called the breakout, and this one looks great, still looks good. ITGR, I don't like this day. Nuval, Nuvalent, Biotech, I think. Let's see, I don't remember. So many different names out there. I have to do my own research. I like big uptrends and sideways moves and breakouts. I still worry about this level here, which was hit multiple times. Isn't too far away. Oric, another healthcare stock. I have no help here. It's kind of a loosey-goosey chart. Here's another healthcare, Puma Biotech. I guess last time I called on them, they weren't that impressive. Still talking about the same drug. So they've got new drugs coming for various diseases. Neratinib is their breast cancer drug, which I thought was already on the market. I think they're expanding its role. From a chart perspective, it's beautiful. Beautiful uptrend, pullback here, and a breakout. Um, Double momentum. That's what I'm looking for. TARS is another one. So again, as I said yesterday, if we're seeing all these biotechs showing up on scans, should you just buy the ETF? Today the answer was yes. Don't know what tomorrow will bring. And then the other scan I look at is the A scan. My God, more biotech ALDX. I'm just going to see if anything looks really actionable. This one's interesting. This is Blackstone Minerals, natural gas, oil, fundamentals. Don't have it. Oh, I do have some. Okay, hold on. Makes money. Last earnings were 2 days ago with 72% growth with a big earnings surprise. Pays a huge dividend, 10% dividend. Well, that's interesting on a $15 stock. I'd have to do some research, look at what the volume is, and see if it's something that looks attractive. It's a real small company, but whatever. That looks interesting. There's that Contessa again. Exelixis is another biotech. Pull back into the 50 and breaking out. Ford, I looked at that one over the weekend. Nice steady uptrend. Buy it off the 50. Ferguson Industrials. FIP Infrastructure. GTLS is so takeout. HBM, Hudbay Minerals again. How beautiful is this? More beautiful on Tuesday to buy than on Wednesday to buy, but a beautiful chart. Home Depot earnings surprise today. You know, I used to practice in Atlanta, and Atlanta is where Home Depot started, and so many of the public resources that were created with private funds, museums, aquariums, schools, community centers, were paid for by the Blank family, the Marcus family, and the others that were involved in founding Home Depot. And that city ebbed and flowed by Home Depot stock. And you could see going back a long time, ever since 2006, 2007, this has been just dynamite. But in recent years, it's had some trouble. It's got competition. It's had to deal with housing crisis. But is Home Depot ready to start another run? Big gap up today. I don't know if I'd be buying it here. I'd at least be watching it. Here's that ITGR again. What I didn't like. Mama has made it again. This is a was it Italian food? Was it what was it? Prepared refrigerated foods, meatloaf, chicken, sausage, beef, turkey. Well, it's a boring story to me. It makes a little bit of money. No dividend, high PE. Had a big earnings surprise. PDYN, Paladine AI, eh, POWI, Power Integration. I wonder if they benefited at all from today's Trump stuff. Probably worth looking at this one. PRMB, no. SLDE. This is a financial play. What did they do? Slide Insurance Holdings, holding company, underwriting of single family and condo policies. Well, it's a nice, it's well, it's not nice looking chart because it's kind of loose, but a big uptrend, a big pullback, and a breakout above the 50. I don't know enough about it. I don't mind the chart pattern. It's a little loose for my taste. TGB again, a miner we talked about a little while ago. This one looks very interesting here. TMDX, another healthcare company. It's in an uptrend, and it's, you could, and earnings are out. By the way, look at this massive earnings per share growth. Holy Toledo. It didn't really respond that much, did it? You could almost come in down here and say you're running up the trend line. The stock has pulled back towards the trend line in the 50. Earnings are out and were great. Good volume, breakout momentum out of a squeeze. Put this to the list of things that I'll look at tomorrow. VICR was on yesterday, kind of like it is today. This was an interesting bar. VIR is a biotech that had some great news after hours yesterday, and you could see it responded. If you want to know the news, you just click on here, and you can look up on positive data and a deal with Astellas. You can learn what happened. And then lastly, WHD Cactus, which is a oil services company. So themes, lots of biotech. That should tell you something. Um, and a number of other interesting stocks that I called out. Well, look, that's 37 minutes. If you take out my talking time, that's 25 minutes using one tool to digest the market, look at a objective timing model, look at multiple breadth signals, and then do a top-down analysis, and we're done. The last thing, just for grins, we did develop a new filter. Did it live actually. Been really excited by it, and we've got 244. And this is what the index looks like if I create an index with these stocks. Pretty darn good. Probably worth taking a look at this. That's what I'll do before the market opens tomorrow. Have a great day in the U.S. markets. Volatility is probably not going anywhere. And do I think we're going to all-time highs? I do. But I don't think this market's without risk. And so I'm putting this in the mixed strong category. Therefore, I'm still long. But boy, I'm playing defense and I've raised cash. Good night, everybody. Sorry this is so late.